Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Go ahead and just make yourself comfortable. We're waiting for our trainer to join the room. Thanks for the thumbs up, Gail. Good morning, Drake, and welcome.
Good morning, Monica. I'm happy to say that I did reach out to Brian, and I now have my own Zoom account. So I'm not sure if I'm logged in with my official agency Zoom account, but I will poke around in Zoom when we get done with this meeting so that I can get familiarized with everything. I was also happy to see that when I logged in, my video started automatically, but my microphone was conveniently placed, completely blocking me. So nobody had to witness me in my disheveled state this morning as I'm trying to work through things.
We all understand COVID remote working times. So, and let me know, Drake, if you need any assistance down the road with your Zoom account. So people are just joining our Zoom room right now. Drake, I am going to click on your name and assign you as host for the meeting. That'll give you a higher level of permission settings to do screen shares and that type of thing. And I'm going to stay for as long as I can, but I may have to exit the meeting before you all finish up to go to another meeting. So the one housekeeping thing I want to say around accessibility for this event is we are using the Zoom auto captioning feature. I can see it at the bottom of my screen. If you cannot see the captions, what you need to do is click on the CC button on the bottom of your Zoom screen to allow yourself to see those captions. You can also click show full transcript, which would then give you the captions in a chat-like dialogue box. We are recording this meeting, so please know that. And my hope is that we can make the recording available after today. If you need different level of access or accommodation to use this training video down the road, please don't hesitate to reach out and let us know what that is, since we are aware we're using the auto captioning feature today. And with that, I will say welcome everyone. Thanks for taking the time to join us. I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Drake now, who's leading this training session on HighPoint HCX Mobile.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you for everybody that's joining. I know that our meeting start time said that it was 9 a.m., but I also do recognize that people are coming over from other meetings. People may have just gotten out of an 8 a.m. meeting and they want to go grab a cup of coffee. So what we're going to do is we're going to start the actual going over of material and stuff at 9:05. So everybody gets an additional 5 minutes that you get to have a little bit of a breather to go grab some coffee, grab some water, whatever it may be, and just get settled in before we start covering stuff. And just so that people know when they log on, hopefully everybody can see the screen here now that says we will start at 9:05 a.m. Hopefully I'm sharing the right screen there.
Drake, this is Monica. We can see your screen, so you've done it correctly.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Hi, Josh. Hi, Josh. Hi, everyone. This is Monica. As you're settling in and getting ready for this training, do take a moment to mute your microphones, please. I'm sure Drake has scheduled time for a question and answer towards the end of this, and we all can hear a little better when we cut out our background noise. Thank you so much.
All right, everybody. My computer says it's 9:05 and my watch says it's 9:05 and my phone says it's 9:05. So I'm almost certain that it must be 9:05. So we can go ahead and get ready to start. First off, just quick, people can hear me, right?
Drake, this is Monica. Yes, we can hear you coming in loud and clear.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that. I always like to double check because I think we have all sat in meetings where we've been very double muted and didn't realize it. So my name is Drake, and my first name is technically Robert. So if you ever need to email me, my email address is rdrake@sbctc.edu. I'll go ahead and put that in the chat now. I am a third-party functional analyst at the state board. So we have a number of third-party applications that work in tandem with PeopleSoft. And so I help support those products. One of the products that I help support is HCX Mobile. We use the term HCX and mobile interchangeably. This is a product that is from a vendor named HighPoint. We also have another product by HighPoint called Message Center. Message Center is part of the 3Cs communications, and it can be accessed through both PeopleSoft and HCX. So one thing we try to do is we don't want to refer to the products by the name of the company that makes it, because sometimes we get confused on which product we're talking about. So today we're going to be looking at mobile HCX or mobile or HCX Mobile. Any one of those numbers of things, we should be able to identify what it is that we're talking about. So one of the questions that may come up is, what is mobile HCX? So what the vendor has done is they've created a product that allows students to access a large number, almost all of the features that are found in PeopleSoft in a different interface that is a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more modern, and has some uniformity across the entire product and when you're accessing it using different devices. And it looks like, Vanessa, I'm going to go ahead and mute you. And let me just click. There we go. I've clicked the mute all. So if you would like to speak at any time, you will have to unmute yourself. What mobile does is it presents what's in PeopleSoft, but just in a different method that is a little bit more user-friendly and a little bit more intuitive for many of the users. We've had a request to go over some training of HCX, and that's what this first session today is about. We can always hold additional sessions like this in the future if you'd like, and we can talk about how you ask for which topics to cover when we finish up today. As we go through this, I'm pretty laid back on stuff. So at any time, if you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or you can use the chat feature. Someone just sent me the chat feature saying, asking if we're still supposed to be seeing the "We will start at 9:05."
Drake,
Now we have it saying we have started.
Drake, this is Monica. I will gladly help moderate the chat for you this morning. So if I see questions come in, I will unmute myself and make sure you're aware of those.
Okay.
One thing is, for folks who want to put a question in the chat, because I've given Drake host permissions and I'm no longer host, please put your chat so it's viewable by all participants. Otherwise, I will not see it, but I'm happy to help moderate if that's helpful, Drake.
Sure. Always appreciates any assistance. So as I was saying, I'm super laid back on this stuff, so feel free to ask as many questions as you have as we go through this. If you need me to repeat anything, one thing that I run into is when I'm presenting, sometimes I've got really big monitors that I use. So sometimes as I'm using them, I don't realize that people on the other end of an online session may have challenges with the scale of the items. So if you ever need me to zoom in on things, by all means, please let me know. Today, we're going to talk about a student enrolling. So we'll go over the process of logging in to HCX. We'll do a class search, and we'll go through the steps of finding a class, enrolling for the class, and then paying for the class. As we do that, there are some other features that if you like, we can also look at, but that's really the core of what we're going to cover today. Now, the session today is scheduled for 2 hours, so that gives us a lot of time to cover a rather small amount of information. That was a little bit by design to allow us to explore other features if people have questions about it, to make sure we have plenty of time for Q&A, so we can discuss any future topics you might want to have us cover. And then also I wanted to talk about if there are any ways that I can improve these presentations for you guys in the future. But let's start off and let's start looking at the demo, because that's what everybody's here for. So on your screen, you should see a selection of institutions. So right now, I'm currently in a browser, and HCX can be accessed either through a mobile app on the phone, through the Android store, or through the Apple store, or it can also be accessed through a browser. When you go through a browser, you have the same exact experience as you do on a phone. It is a reactive design. So based on your resolution or how much you have zoomed, it's a responsive design. The screen will respond to what your device is that is looking at HCX. So for the purposes of today, we're going to be looking at a student that is a student at Spokane. One thing to note is the environment that we're looking in. This is not our production environment. So all of the personal information has been scrubbed for this student. So there is no identifiable information here. But this is also not a production environment, so it may run a little bit slower than it normally would. So from the institutions list, These are in alphabetical order. So a student will, when they first visit here, they will scroll down and choose their institution. So we've scrolled down, we've located our institution of Spokane CC, and then we're going to select this institution. And once we select the institution, we're brought to what is called the springboard. Your springboard has a number of tiles on it. Some of these tiles are unique to your institution. The 4 tiles that are consistent through all colleges' springboards are the CTC Link login, the class search, the course catalog, and the browse classes. So what we're going to do now is we're going to log in to HCX. So to do that, we're going to select the CTC Link login tile. On all institutions, this tile will always be the first tile that is available for students to select.
Drake, this is Debbie from Walla Walla. Can I ask a quick question about that CTC Link tile?
Yes.
Is clearly it's not editable, but is the text editable? If we have branded our CTC Link as Warrior Link, is that an option to put that on there?
That it would not be.
Okay.
To provide a consistent experience for all students across the institutions and our students that attend multiple institutions, we have a select set of tiles where we keep the text and the tile label the same through everything. So the CTC Link login is one of those that we have set to a default that we don't change.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So here, after we click the CTC Link login tile, after we select that tile, we'll come to the login screen. One thing to note is that at the end of this month, we will be having a new login system put into place. That system is called Okta. So when a student goes to log in, this screen will look a little bit different here come the end of the month. So we're going to put in the username. We're going to enter that in the CTC Link ID field. And then in the password field, we will enter our password. And then we'll select the sign in button. After we've selected the sign in button, you'll then be driven to what is called the dashboard. The dashboard here has 3 tiles across the top: general, academics, and financials. There'll be a number of widgets that will display here under this general area. There we go. And now it's shown up. So here under the general tab, when a student first logs in, they'll be able to see their message center, their holds, their student exams, their to-dos, their wait list, and their recent transactions. But today we want to focus on searching for a class. So on the sidebar menu on the left-hand side, you're going to come and select from the menu class information. Once you select class information, a drop-down will appear where you'll have 3 additional choices: class search, browse classes, and course catalog. We're going to select the class search. And our class search page has loaded. Every institution has the ability to customize their class search search criteria. We won't dive too much into, at least not right now, how the class search criteria works. But let's just use this class search, and we're going to search for a subject. Let's choose the accounting ampersand from the subject search criteria field. So when you click on the search criteria field, a drop-down will appear, and it will have the description of all of these subjects that are available at your institution. So here we've selected the accounting ampersand, and now we're going to click on, we're going to select the search button. After the search is complete, we're presented with 2 classes that are currently scheduled for the summer 2021 term. We have Principles of Accounting 1 and Principles of Accounting 2. From those search results, we have our headers here of the search results that show the section, topic, session, days, start, end, room, dates, instructor, and status for the class that is returned. Those fields, as well as very briefly touched on the class search criteria fields, are able to be adjusted per institution. So not every institution's search criteria will look the same, and these search results columns will not always be the same across all institutions. So we've seen, let's say that we want to take this Principles of Accounting 1. We have a couple of things that we can do here. We have 3 buttons over on the right-hand side of the class that say additional actions. If we select the additional actions, we have enroll, add to cart, and share are the additional options that we can choose from. Now we could select any of these from the dropdown, but first let's get a little bit more information about this class before we attempt to enroll in it. Over here on the left-hand side of this row for this class, we have a chevron pointing to the right icon that when you hover over that says expand. So what we're going to do is we're going to expand the information about this class. And once we've clicked expand, we get additional information about the class. So we get its class number, the career, the session, the units, grading, and the description of the class. We also get textbooks. If the textbooks have been entered, there's a button to the bookstore that could be selected. We also have additional details, the instructor, the dates, when the class meets, the instruction mode, the room, location, the components, as well as availability, the status, the seats open, and the wait list open. We have 3 buttons below that has a share button, an add to cart button, and an enroll button. One of the questions that we have in the chat is, can the schedule show additional fees? It's an excellent question, Kim. The class schedule cannot show additional fees. I'm trying to think of a way that additional fees could be displayed. Additional fees could be displayed if they were entered into the description. And I believe there's a point when we, after we add this class to our cart, that we will be able to see the breakdown of the charges for this class. But as far as having, when we expand here, there is not a way currently to show additional fees.
Drake, this is Monica. Kim put an additional comment that said it's a problem if there's no way for students to see additional fees when enrolling, but Shalito also commented that some colleges might choose to put additional fees in class notes. And so people are continuing this conversation in the chat. It might not be something that we can comment on right now further, but just letting you know that there's a rich conversation going on about this particular item.
Great, thank you. So let's first look at the share button. If you select the share button, a pop-up will appear in the center of the screen that allows you to share this class information. First, we have a field here that has a URL in the center of this pop-up, and that's a link directly to this class. There is a button right below the field that says copy link. So if you select the copy link button, that will copy the link for this class to your clipboard on your computer so that you can then paste that link if there's another way that you would like to share it out. We also have the ability to share on social media networks. We have 3 buttons below. One is an envelope. If you select the envelope, you'll be able to share this class over email. We then have a Facebook button. If you select this button, it will post the class information to Facebook. And then we have a Twitter button that, just like the Facebook button, if you select the Twitter button, you'll be able to tweet out the information about this class.
Drake, this is Dave from Green River. If you copy and paste that link, the assumption is the person has the permissions to get into it as well, right?
That is correct. The fun thing about the class search is the class search is actually public facing. So anyone that you share the link with should not have any problems being able to see the class. And in fact, let me copy this link right now. So I've selected the copy link. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open a whole new browser. Real quick, I'm just going to delete all my cookies and cache on this browser. I'm now going to paste this browser, or paste the copied link of the class. So I've not logged in to HCX in any way. And when I hit enter and I have this browser search, we're automatically taken to that class. You'll see here on this browser that we do not have the option to share. Well, we do up here on the upper right-hand corner, there is a share button, but we don't have the add to cart or the enroll buttons available. So there's no need to worry about permissions when sharing this class information because it is public facing. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. So we're now going to select the X in the upper right-hand corner of this pop-up, and this will close the modal or close the share class pop-up. Now we have one of two options. We can either add this class to our cart, or we can enroll directly here from the class search. So first, let's just do an add to cart. We select add to cart. We have a pop-up that appears with our enrollment options. We have the option of entering a permission number. The permission number only has to be entered if it is required or if it is required by the student, but that is not a required field. So we're not going to enter a permission number for this class. We have a checkbox that we can select if we want the wait to be waitlisted if the class is full. And then we have our cancel and our save buttons. We're going to select our save button. And in the upper right-hand corner, we have a pop-up that says success and that our class has successfully been added to our cart. Next to this class now, we have a little shopping cart, and we can see that the class is in our cart. But we're going to go to our cart. So on the sidebar menu, we're going to select the enrollment from the menu. From the drop-down that appears, we will then select our shopping cart. The shopping cart page has loaded. So currently in our shopping cart, we have our Principles of Accounting 1. In order to enroll for the class, we have to select the class. So on this class information, over on the right-hand side, just before the three dots, we have a little checkbox that we can select. Once we select that, we then have the option to delete this class from the shopping cart. We can validate this class, or we can enroll in this class. We don't want to delete this class because we just added it, but I've gone ahead and I've selected the validate. And now the system is validating if this class is going to work for us. Debbie Evans has asked, does validation take into consideration prereqs? Debbie, to my understanding, yes, it does take into consideration prereqs. I can't say that the validation that I've not done a lot of research into the validation results, but I do believe that yes, it does take into consideration prereqs. But what I'll do is I'll write myself a note to look a little bit further into those validation and make sure it does take into consideration those prereqs.
Great, Monica, I have a question, and forgive me if this is perhaps if you've already covered this. What is the function of validation, the validate button? What is that telling the student exactly?
So my understanding for the validation results is that it takes into account the student's program plan stack and validates that this is a class that will work within the requirements of their program plan stack. That being said, I will need to do some additional research into the validation portion just to make sure that I fully understand what exactly the validation looks at.
Thanks, Drake. That answers my question. I appreciate you agreeing to look into it further. I do see a question in the chat that says, what if you're a student enrolled in the required prerequisite course the current term? So the current term you're shopping and hoping to add a class for the next term. So I think the question is saying, would the validation process tell you you can do that or not if you're currently enrolled in the prereq?
Again, and I apologize, and thank you everyone for their understanding. There's a lot of features and nuances in the product, and we've just recently switched over to this newer version. So I believe it does. Monica, we will have a copy of this chat, correct? From our recording?
Hi, Drake. Yes, I have hit the save chat button, so we should, and I'll go ahead and start handwriting up some questions now, just for backup.
Thank you, Monica. I appreciate that. One thing we will do is I'll make sure that we go through all of the chat, all of the questions, and even if we have answered those questions during the session, we will answer those questions again, just so that anybody who may not have been in attendance will be able to get those answers as well. It will take at least a couple of weeks for us to do that. And we'll send that out over the e-list so that everybody that's on the mobile HCX e-list is able to get that additional information.
Thanks, Drake. This is Monica. That's a good reminder. I don't know if everyone attending today is on that mobile HCX e-list or not. So if there's a link to sign up for that e-list, maybe you can put that in the chat before the end of the session today.
I can certainly do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So from the validation results, we're now able to select the OK button. And now we're able to select the Enroll button. One thing to note is that we did just validate this class, but we were not required to validate this class. Validating and showing the functionality or showing how the system displays once an individual has selected the validate button was truly for the purposes of demo, but it is not a requirement to validate prior to selecting the Enroll button. So we'll now select the Enroll button. And we're now displayed our enrollment results. We've successfully enrolled into the class that we attempted to enroll into. And now we can select the OK button. Our shopping cart now updates and lets us know that we do not have any classes in our cart. So now that I, as a student, have gone through and I've searched for my class and I've enrolled in my class, the next thing I'll want to do is pay for the class. So to pay for my class, on the left-hand sidebar menu, we will select Financials. And then from the drop-down that appears, we will select the What I Owe. On the What I Owe screen, we can now see that there, as a student, we have 2 terms where we owe funds for the classes that we've enrolled in. So just like on our class search results, we have the right-facing chevron here next to our summer 2021 term. And we're going to select the expand. And after selecting expand, we are presented with the outstanding charges, the due dates, and the amounts for the classes that we have registered in. We have the ability to display our charges. We can change our display. In the upper right-hand corner, we have a display dropdown. When we select the display dropdown, we're presented with charges and charges by date. So the student has the ability to change their display to whichever works best for them. They can either display charges by date, and here we can see our due date and the amount. Or if we go back on our display from the drop-down and we select charges, we have a breakdown of those charges. Next to the display drop-down, we have a button for email outstanding charges. If we select this button, we will be taken to our default email program on our computer, and it will auto-generate an email where the body of that email will have a list of the charges for the student that is requesting that email.
Drake, this is Monica. I do want to share that there's a question in the chat that says, if additional fees are not included in the What I Owe, how would a student get the alert that they need to pay more?
Thank you, Monica. So Debbie, when you say additional fees that are not included in What I Owe, could you elaborate on what those additional fees would be? Like, where would those fees be assessed from to the student?
Hi, Drake. I'm referencing some of the conversation earlier in the chat on can the schedule show additional fees, but I'm thinking things like if there's a lab fee or if there is an additional fee that comes in for the student. is this list here inclusive of all of it? For some reason in the chat, I thought it was not.
This list certainly should be inclusive.
Welding fees. Jenkins just said welding fees, for example.
So welding fees, is that a fee that is attached either at the course or class level in PeopleSoft? As long as the fee is attached to a course or the class level, it will appear here in what I owe.
Great.
And what we can do is we can select the expand for spring 2021. Here we're able to see that for the classes that the student is enrolled in for spring 2021, we have an accounting computer fee, QuickBooks, and then a class fee, the hotel, restaurant, event management. So if this is what is considered the additional fees that folks are inquiring about, that is where the those additional fees would appear for the student. So we've covered as a student logging into HCX, performing a class search. We've, from the class search, added a class to our shopping cart. And then from the shopping cart, we have enrolled in the class. After enrolling in the class, we've looked to see what I owe. And now let's look at the process of the initial steps of the process of making a payment. So we have a make a payment button here on the upper right-hand corner, and we're going to select the make a payment button. So to add a little clarity of what's occurring, currently I'm in full screen mode. I'm going to change out of full screen mode here so that we can see the tabs that are on my browser. From the What I Owe page, when selecting the Make a Payment button, a new tab has opened. That tab takes us directly to the account balance inside PeopleSoft. So from here, when a student goes to make a payment, it's exactly as they would perform in PeopleSoft. From the left-hand side menu, the student will select the Payments dropdown. From the dropdown, they will then select the Make a Payment option. As this is loading, Chantel had asked about the Nelnet payment plan, or if it's possible in HCX. And Shoreline has also posted that no payment plan in HCX, as I've been told. And that is correct, Shoreline. And Chantel, students do not have the option to sign up for the payment plan through HCX. But if they if they select the What I Owe, Make a Payment, because they're brought here into PeopleSoft, into the account balance page, over on the sidebar menu, the payment plans options are there. I'm not familiar with the payment plans. If this is the same area where a student would sign up for a payment plan or make a payment plan payment, then yes, this is how they would access it.
Sorry, Drake, this is Adam from Shoreline. Can I just clarify? So when you click to make a payment, you ended up in CTU, it took you out of HCX.
Correct. It takes you from HCX directly to the account balance page inside PeopleSoft, where students then have the ability to make a payment.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So as I don't want to actually pay $2,017.78 on a fake student's account and input my credit card information or anything like that, we won't go through this entire process, but we will put in our payment amount. We will put our remaining balance in that field, and then we will select the next button. We now have our confirm payment screen where we have the options of selecting the cancel, previous, or continue to make payment button. We'll select the continue to make payment. And what may appear here, because we are in a development environment that does not have all of the access, we get a "you are not authorized to view this page. The transaction has not been processed" notification. That's perfectly acceptable in this environment. That's what we would expect. In a production environment, the student would then be able to enter their payment details and proceed on their payment.
Drake, this is Debbie from Walla Walla. Can I ask a quick question about the dynamic screen? If I'm doing this from my phone and I was in HCX and then got bumped into PeopleSoft, am I going to lose some of that ability on my phone?
You will not lose that ability on your phone. From HCX, when you select the make a payment button, your default browser on your phone should open up a new tab where you're then able to proceed with your making a payment.
Thank you.
Hey Drake, this is Josh. Since it opens up a new web browser window, what happens when you press that back button? Does it go back to HCX or do you have to close out of that tab?
Josh, are you asking about when
See the back
accessing
button.
it through one of the apps or here on the mobile or through a browser?
I think it's Shoreline is asking the question, and then I think it's a good question for both instances, whether you're in a using a phone app or here. What happens when we hit that back button?
Yeah, so when you clicked from when you clicked from HCX to the payment stuff, it brought you to PeopleSoft, and in PeopleSoft they have that back button, I guess, so you can like navigate through PeopleSoft. But what happens if you get there and you hit back? I'm just thinking from an accessibility standpoint.
When you click on the back button, nothing happens because you did not come from another PeopleSoft page. The JavaScript on that back button, it just says to do a back, so to perform a back action. So as we can see, when we click that button, it does not do anything.
Got it. Thank you.
Welcome.
That was a great question, though. That's something that I will take note of and look at from an accessibility perspective as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. So Nazar has asked, do you have to log in again in the browser after leaving the app? It's an excellent question, Nazar. If you give me 1 second, what I will do is I'm opening the app on my cell phone right now. And I'm testing this in real time for you. All right, Nazar, so I have no enrollment, and I'll have to go and check some settings because I should be seeing the what I owe, the make a payment, even though I do not have any charges, but I'm not seeing that. So we will definitely take note of that, Nazar, and we will get back to you with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. David has asked, will the payment activity show in the what I owe screen in HCX, or will it show in the account activity screen? David, once a payment has been applied, it will appear, well, when we are in the what I owe, we will not see the payment activity under what I owe, but under the account activity. An account activity is on the sidebar menu under the financials drop down. We have the account activity. And when we select the account activity option, we're then presented with a breakdown of all of the activity that has occurred on the student's financial account for that term. So if we look back to, let's do a spring 2021. So on the account activity, we can change our view by period. So we can have view it by term or custom. So we're going to keep that at term. And then from the term drop down, we're going to select spring 2020. Once we've selected that, the screen updates. And here we can see under the activity, a description and the activity type. So we can see that we had a hire one refund. We have the activity displayed of the subsidized and unsubsidized loans that were used to make payments. Let's see, as we continue to scroll down on this screen, we can see that there was a VA Chapter 33 payment. We have a number of hire one refunds that are showing up. I'm scrolling back up. I may not be able to find, just based off of this demonstration student that we're using, any payments that were done via a check or a credit card, but that should appear under the description with the activity type of payment. Susan has asked, what is the name of the app that we should be able to download on our phone? So the name of the app is CTC Link. You should be able to find the CTC Link app in the Google Store and the Apple Store. Can students start the enrollment process from the enrollment tab, or do they have to begin the enrollment process under the class information tab? Christina has asked this, or I'm sorry, Krista has asked this question. So Krista, there are many ways that students can perform the same tasks, both in PeopleSoft and HCX. It would be possible to start the process from enrollment. So after a student has logged in, if they select enrollment from the left-hand sidebar menu, once they select enrollment and they expand the screen, from the drop-down, they will be able to select their shopping cart. Once the shopping cart has been selected, in the upper right-hand corner, there's an option. There's a button that has add classes with a chevron pointing down. When you select the drop-down, you're given the option of class search, planner, or add by class number. So if a student wanted to perform the class search, they could do the class search to find the class. If they have the classes already added to their planner, they could select planner. Or if they know the class number, they would just be able to select the add by class number option from the dropdown. And let's just take a look at that. We'll select add by class number. Once we've selected add by class number, we're presented with the option in the class number to field to just add whatever our class number is. I don't know any offhand, but I do know that our accounting ampersand 201 was class number 4420. So we'll try 4421 and we will then select the add button. That just happens to be the accounting ampersand 202. So we have the enrollment options, just like we did when we had the class in our shopping cart previously. So we will select the save button. And the class has now been added successfully to our cart. From here, just like before, we will select the checkbox for the class, and then we'll be able to select the enroll button. And this is actually great. So one of the things that we're now seeing is the enrollment results. We have an error. We're unable to add this class because the requisites have not been met, grade of 2.0 or better, and accounting ampersand 201, or permission of instructor. So we'll select the OK button. And now, just for the sake of trying it, let's select the validate and just see what these validation results were. Our validation results now give us that there's a potential problem with us attempting to enroll in this class because we have not, as a student, met the enrollment requisites. So this is good because this does answer one of the questions we had previously. If a student has 3 or 4 classes within their shopping cart, and they select to validate, validate will determine if the student has met the prerequisites or the requisites for the class that they want to enroll in. So we'll go ahead and we'll select the OK button to dismiss that message. Let me see.
Drake?
Yep.
This is Kate popping off from Clark College. If I could add just 2 snippets, I had the opportunity to attend a information session that Cale Godwin did at our college in January about the validation. And at that point, he shared that if you're in a class that is a prerequisite for one you're enrolling in, that the validation button will tell you that it's conditional. And the validation button will also tell you, for example, if there's like classes that are paired that you have to take together, maybe it's a lecture lab, for example, that it'll also give you that message. So I just wanted to throw that out to the group.
Great, thank you, Kate.
You bet.
Appreciate that. So we will we'll select the delete button from our shopping cart, and we're going to delete this accounting 201. Let me look back here. So Debbie has mentioned, since the dashboard is so robust with all these options, i.e. making a payment, the tiles on the springboard don't need to duplicate the same path, i.e. make payment tile. Is that right? Debbie, having links on your springboard that you do, that you would want students specifically to access that are already in the dashboard may be redundant. That is not to say that you should not at times have perhaps some duplicate tiles. That'd just be an internal business process for institution. Because while there is financial aid information that is accessible through the dashboard, perhaps you would still want a tile that links to a financial aid information area at your institution. So it really depends on the intent and purpose of the tile, and how your institution would like to have the student experience be.
Drake, this is Adam from Shoreline again. I was under the impression that you can't deep link to a specific tab in CTC Link or HighPoint, but is that actually misunderstood? So can you, from the tiles, deep link directly to like the financials tab in HighPoint?
So
I can speak to that, Drake.
Yep.
This is Josh from SBCTC. That is correct. We do not have the ability to deep link. So that's why when we go to make a payment here in HCX, we are taken to the broader make a payment portal in the student homepage. And that's where you have the ability to go to Nelnet and make a payment, and as well as the CyberSource, I guess, API that's configured within the student homepage area.
Okay,
So-
but
So those tiles, this is Debbie, so those tiles that say payment, which is on the Wenatchee and North Central in North Seattle and Seattle Central tile page, take them to a link. It's not Nelnet, but it is their school's Nelnet page, and they click in to make a payment. Does that
Perfect.
then talk back to CTC Link to show that they've made a payment in that direction?
I would think so. I think it depends on how Nelnet's set up differently for each school, but I'm pretty sure that it works like CyberSource, where then it speaks to our databases and then updates what the student sees.
Thank you.
I just clicked on the North Seattle one. When you click on their payments tile, it just brings you to a general page on their website for
Right.
making payments, right? So it's like they just routed you to their site, and then from there you can, but it doesn't link you directly to a CTC Link portal page.
Right.
I guess I got a follow-up question to this. If clicking into the class search is really getting you everything, it's not just the class search, how does a student know that that's also where they can do finances and stuff? Is there a way to change the label of that and just say that that is CTC Link? For all intents and purposes, that is CTC Link. It's everything. that you.
Well, what do you mean by clicking on class search gets you everything?
In the springboard, if you want to get to your financials, your schedule, like it's also your schedule. It's not just your class search. It's your schedule. It's your
It is
payment.
only, you only have access to everything that is in the dashboard if you have completed the CTC link login process. So here in this browser,
Mhm.
this is the production mobile, and we have the class search. So when we click on, or when we select the class search tile, that takes us in to the class search. Now, one thing to note, we have been experiencing a small challenge with this academics menu option appearing on the left-hand side. That should not be appearing, and our security team is working on making sure that that stops appearing on this public search. But without having logged in, just going to the class search does not give you or provide access to all of the features inside HCX. You have to log in first.
Got it. I guess I'm wondering how a student would ever know. I think it could be, we'll just have to work on training students, but I think it is, it's interesting because it is essentially it's another version of CTC Link or PeopleSoft version. It's just we're labeling it class search from this springboard. But if you log into it, then you're in what's essentially the same thing as CTC.
Right. If you log in, you come to the class search, it is still the,
I guess I'm wondering if a student is on the
performing a class
springboard and they're looking for the financial, if they're looking for the any of these other tabs, they're not seeing that because they're only seeing class search. They don't know that going into class search means logging in, and then you can see all that. So we just have to train students.
and thank you.
Can I ask a question that builds on that? If a current student user is using this as HCX Mobile and they have at some point clicked and logged in to CTC Link using the CTC Link tile from the springboard, how long will HCX remember that login? This speaks to that question of, does a student know do they need to go through the CTC Link every single time they open the app? Or will it remember their login so that when they return and click class search from the springboard, they will have access to the full functionality?
So there will be a, my understanding is there will be a timeout feature being introduced with the Okta login that is going in at the end of this month. So what that will do is when a student goes through the process of selecting the CTC Link login tile, they'll be presented with the Okta login. Once they complete the Okta login process, they'll be taken to the dashboard. On whatever device that they're using, they will have cookies set on their device that will time out after a certain period of time that would then require the student to re-log in. Now, during that time window, though, of activity for the user, they would be able to, if they've completed the login, if they went out and went back to the class search, it would take them back to the dashboard, being logged in, as long as they perform that task within the time period of what Okta allows before having to log in again. Does that answer your question?
I think so, yes.
All right. So Shoreline asked about the tile deep link to a specific tab. As
Yeah,
Josh had mentioned, not for most areas. There is a way to link further into the class search, so you can adjust the search criteria. So if you wanted to have a link from a tile on your Springboard that went directly to had specific search criteria already figured into it, you could have a tile that does that. So it could automatically look for all of your English classes that have specific course attributes and specific course attribute values. That would be possible to do in a tile.
But you can't
That's a good point.
you can't just link directly to the apply view graduation page, right? Like if we want to just tell students, hey, go apply for graduation now, and just link right to that you can't.
Hi, this is Josh from SBCTC. So for deep links, if it does not require an info ID in the query string, in the URL, then you're able to deep link into it by setting certain parameters in the query string.
For us
So I'm not,
non-technical people, can you two please define deep link as opposed to direct link?
So it's basically, yeah, direct link. It's going right to something rather than making the student go to the dashboard first and then find the thing. If you wanted to link right to the screen that shows them where they're at with applying for graduation, that's how we refer to deep link.
Thank you.
right.
So, let's see. I can do a test here in a moment, or towards the end of this. We can revisit deep links, and we can show you what the behavior would be like if we attempted to do link into an area that had to be logged into.
Drake and Josh, this is Monica. I'm wondering if maybe we need to have a separate conversation or maybe separate training material specifically around possibilities with deep link in schools creating new tiles. Or is now the time to just continue having that exploration and that conversation right now?
And that's, I think, we can push that to the end of this conversation today, because it doesn't apply to everybody that's is on the session today. So
and I just want to make sure, Drake, that you get to go through all the materials you had planned to share with us today. So let's go ahead.
Okay. So as Monica was mentioning, so we have covered the materials that the intent was to cover today. We did get a little sidetracked here towards the end, and I apologize about that. Thank you for everyone. Anytime in the future when we do these, if you need to say, Drake, can we refocus a little bit? That's perfectly acceptable. That's something that happens to me all the time. So completely understand. But we've covered today the logging into HCX, performing a class search, putting the class into our shopping cart, enrolling from the class, and then going through the make a payment process. When it comes to those specific steps, are there any outstanding questions, comments, or concerns with how that functionality works?
This is Monica. Sometimes it takes people a couple of minutes to collect their thoughts and organize their questions. So everyone take a moment. Feel free to unmute your mics or put a question in chat. Drake, this is Monica. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. It's possible people are still digesting all of this good information. Since we are a little ahead of schedule, I defer to you and others if now would be a good time to kind of revisit the tile and deep linking questions and concerns people had. If that's what people need right now, we do have maybe 20 or 25 more minutes together. Okay, yeah, Shoreline, go ahead and unmute yourself, please. I see you got a question.
Okay, this is Adam. Sorry, it shows up as Shoreline. Well, let me change it right now. But thank you, and thank you everybody for like the time that you've put into giving us this training. It's super helpful. I guess I'm wondering if you've heard from other schools, or if there's a consensus around how to differentiate between the two, how to differentiate for students the difference between the two platforms, and how to, if there's any, I guess my question is, why aren't we all just driving students to HighPoint as our primary thing in general and just focusing on that? Because it seems like there's two platforms here, two ways of doing everything for the most part. Is there a reason to, is there any consensus among the schools which one has been more successful with students? Should we just focus on one? If we're focusing on both, what's the best way to, is there any guidance for how to provide both platforms to students? Because I think it could get confusing for them if we've got these two different worlds, but you can access both of them on the web. So just curious if there's any guidance there, or if there's consensus.
Hi, this is Kate Poffman, Clark College again. It's my understanding that the, I'm going to call it HighPoint, and I'm not supposed to, HCX, is that right? Is more accessible than the standard CTC link. That being said, though, we're still finding that the HCX doesn't have all of the, or some of the items aren't as robust. We worked with one student who was trying to get an unofficial transcript, and what he arrived at with the HCX, and now this has been a little while, so it could have changed, wasn't very robust at all, like didn't even contain the student's name. So that would be part of why our office anyway still uses both.
That was really helpful. Thank you. We'd love to touch base and learn more with you all.
Thank you, Kate. That was a pretty good summary of how we view HighPoint and HCX at the state board. This is Josh again from the state board. So I found that HCX provides a more consistent experience when it comes to accessibility and screen readers. I found that in testing in regular PeopleSoft with JAWS and NVDA, I had different experiences across browsers. With JAWS, I had a more robust experience, and there are more features available in, I believe it was Firefox, than there was in Chrome, and JAWS had more features available than in VDA. This was not the same experience I had with HCX. Everything was very consistent across browsers and across screen reader products. So that would be one of the pluses for HCX. Where things have kind of gotten the waters have kind of gotten muddy with this product is it used to be a lot more separate from PeopleSoft than it is now. It used to be PHP based, and for example, the links that we're seeing at the top of in the URL are pretty similar to what you see as when you're in vanilla PeopleSoft. That was not the case before. It was you were in HighPoint.com and that was it, and everything was pretty much an API that replicated what the back was pulling information from PeopleSoft. Now this is just pretty much another student user experience within PeopleSoft.
This is Shalito. I also want to make a comment on that. For the first link colleges, the early colleges, we didn't have mobile until later. So you new colleges that are coming on board, I mean, you're helping to define transitioning or using both and all that stuff. So if you found that there's not an emphasis one way or the other or direction, it's partly that.
Thanks,
Thank
Shalita.
you, Shalita.
Oh,
Monica, if you don't mind, so this is Drake from the State Board. One thing I would like to show, because I just heard someone bring that up about the viewing the unofficial transcript. In our demo environment, I've gone to the sidebar menu, selected view unofficial transcript under the academics dropdown, and there's a button in the upper right-hand corner that says view PDF. I've selected the view PDF, but due to this environment and the resources it has, it is still working on loading. So what I've done is I've gone into our production, and I was a student at one point, so please no one be too critical of what you're about to see. So this is my view unofficial transcript. So from the sidebar menu, I've gone to academics and view unofficial transcript. In the upper right-hand corner, we have the view PDF button. When we select the button, the system's gonna think, and this should happen faster than what our other environment was showing. But we do have a unofficial transcript that has been generated. It has the institution logo. It has our institution logo, my name, my student ID, and then the print date, the date of which this unofficial transcript was generated. It has my degrees awarded, my transfer credits, and then it does go through and it displays all of the terms and all of my classes, all of the grades, and then has my undergrad totals as well. The demo environment, as I said, not quite as robust. In the process of showing that, the unofficial transcript did populate for the demo student. So while I completely understand at one point, perhaps there was a challenge with the unofficial transcript because it didn't even display the name. I am pleased to say now that when using the view unofficial transcript, the view PDF button does in fact return a PDF report with the student's name, their student ID, and all of their information they've taken. So I just wanted to make sure that pointed out that that may have been an issue, and hopefully this works better now for students that may have encountered that. If this is still an outstanding issue, please let us know whenever your students have accessibility issues, like if the view unofficial transcript wasn't displaying the name, so that we can pass that information on to the vendor to work on making the product more accessible for our students.
Hi, this is Josh again. And we have a pretty good relationship with the vendor here at HighPoint, and that's one of the things that they really push for, is to make sure that their product meets at least AA when it comes to WCAG. So they're always ready and willing to make bug fixes when necessary.
Rick, this is Debbie from Walla Walla. Can I ask a quick question in regards to something you said straight out of the gate? You said something about when we navigate to HCX. I'm curious how people are providing that link. What does that mean when students open HCX? How are they getting there? From main web pages or just the app that they have on their phone?
It's interesting.
Step zero.
It's interesting because with the old version of mobile, the previous version, we had the ability to have analytics. And we're actually working with a vendor to get that re-enabled for us. The reason why I think those analytics were interesting is I'll display one of the institution's analytics. Now, I will try to. Let me see if. Okay. So with the previous version of mobile, we were able to create these analytic dashboards for institutions. And once we have the analytics available again, these will be created for all of the institutions. So when we look at, oh, and I don't have a date filter here, darn it. The method for using the mobile site. The interesting part about it was that there really was a almost an even split at some institutions for how their users were accessing between a mobile device, like using the app, or using browser-based. Tacoma Community College, actually the majority of their users were using mobile through a web browser. Versus Spokane and Spokane Falls, the majority of their users were accessing mobile through the apps. This here is this little snapshot of June 1st to June 19th. And the reason why we have June 19th is that's when we upgraded to HCX. And that just happens to be the day that our analytics no longer were collecting data. After I think it's about noon on the 19th. You can see there were about 300 to 500, 300 to 400 users at Tacoma on a given day using mobile in one manner or another, and up to 551 sessions here. Fairly decent number of unique users. So a lot of students were using it, and the way that they were being driven primarily is through links from the institution's web pages. The institution will put a link that takes a student directly to the dashboard for their institution. So when a student clicks on that link, they're taken directly to their institution. They don't have to go through the selection process of choosing their institution. So let's see.
Let me clarify something you just said. So the direct link on, I'm sorry, this is Debbie from Walla Walla. The direct link on the website bypasses the need to select your institution among many.
Correct. Because we have created for each institution, when you go live with HCX, a vanity URL. And I get a little bit of grief every now and then because the vanity URL isn't very vanity-like, but it is specific to each institution. So for example, let me just make sure I've got, yes. So it's WA and then your institution number. So those 3 digits that are your institution number, .ctclink.us. So in your browser, if you go to wa220.ctclink.us, it'll automatically take you to Tacoma's page or to your own Springboard.
Hi, this is Josh. I saw a question from Adam about being able to deploy Google Analytics code into PeopleSoft or HighPoint one day. So Adam, a little more background on myself. I came from Clark before I started at State Board. I was a developer there. And the answer I was always given is that we would not be able to develop in PeopleSoft. Now being at the State Board, I'm seeing why. I'm a developer here, and we're not doing much new development or custom development right now. We're just trying to get all of the schools on board. And I think once we get all the schools on board, it'll open up some space for custom development. And then I think that the attitude towards collaborations with dev teams from other schools will change, being that a lot of us came from other schools. So I look forward to being able to write custom code again and seeking collaboration from you and other schools.
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, because right now we're able to inject, we have our Google Analytics on like our landing registration page where students log into and even through the registration portal. So it's really great data, and it helps us do a lot of more the ability to do remarketing and stuff like that. So I think with this is great technology, but there's this feeling of a loss of being able to track certain things and do certain marketing techniques. So it'd be great if we can eventually get that access and data back in time.
Right.
So for the purposes of HCX, the current standard is that we create a Google Analytics code specific to your institution for the purposes of creating the analytic dashboards for the institutions.
Oh, okay. So that was Google Data Studio that you were showing us before, probably, right?
Correct. And so this is, we have an analytics code for TCC, and we have one for Spokane and Spokane Falls, and the other institution. It's currently, as I mentioned, with the upgrade to HCX, the analytic integration got broken somehow, and we are working currently with a vendor to get a fix put into place so that we can resume gathering that analytic information. So one thing I believe I mentioned earlier is I wanted to make sure that we shared how to access the our reference materials for HCX. So hopefully by now everyone is familiar with the CTC Link Reference Center. When you come to the CTC Link Reference Center, in the search bar that appears on the page, if you just type in the letters HCX and then select the search button, from the searches, you'll have returned just a whole bunch of HCX QRGs. What I find helpful is on these search results, you have your first link to a QRG, and then below that you have a links that break down the different menu areas. Then there's another set of links that on this second set of navigation links, the second one in, if you select that, mobile HCX takes you directly to all those mobile HCX QRGs. That can get confusing. So I'm going to copy this link now and paste this into our chat. So if you use this link that's in the chat, that'll take you directly to all of the QRGs and save you a little bit of that searching and the confusion of trying to find just the HCX QRGs. Trying to think of the other items that we talked about. Would definitely love to see us do future sessions like this. I hope that folks were able to gain additional information. But as far as what subjects to cover, I would love to get feedback from the colleges and the users on what you would like to see us cover. We've got just so much stuff that we can go further into the browse the classes, the course catalog. Maybe you want to find out more information about the financial aid portion. Let's see, is there a feedback forum where we can request features and updates? There's not a feedback forum for requesting features and updates. And Shoreline, is that features and updates for the HCX product itself? So for the product, any requests for enhancements or changes like that, currently the method for making those requests would be to put a ticket in through the ticketing system. We would receive that, and then we would do some information gathering. We would do some vetting of the request. The request would have to go through a change management board. It would then need to go with the developer to see if it's something that we would even be able to have implemented. And then it would go from there. So
I ask about the feedback form because I think it's like when you're using a Microsoft product or something and you think a feature should be added or changed, going to these forums, seeing what other people have recommended and either thumbs upping it or, you know, it kind of helps spark things for other people. So they might not have thought to ask for a feature, but then they're like, wow, actually that would probably make it better for our students too. And then getting that collective feedback centralized somehow and shareable would be, I think, might be helpful for all of us at the different schools, because I think we're all trying to figure out like, well, what would make it better. Right. Maybe we just use the listserv for that, and then all collectively come together to make a request or a recommendation.
Absolutely. That is part of the intent for the e-list, is for individuals to communicate with other institutions and see what they're doing, find out any tips and tricks they might have. Let me find.
And to answer Chantel's question, sorry, Monica, I'll let Drake answer that one. Do you mean something like Hug or for PeopleSoft or HighPoint? Yes, that is, I think, what Adam meant, like a forum to be able to, or a wiki, like a lot of Microsoft products have their own site where they'll tell you what features are currently in development, or it'll allow users to suggest features that they would like, and then developers will comment on it, and you'll see how it progresses along. There is something like that within HighPoint. I believe it's like customer base, like depending on, and I don't want to, I guess, speak out of turn, but I believe it's based on, I don't know exactly the criteria, but I think they have different levels of engagement with customers on what we can, I guess, submit as feature requests. Drake, wasn't there, I believe, like 2 different forms, like for different levels of customers for HighPoint, and we have like access to one forum?
This is Drake from the State Board. That's an excellent question, Josh. So they recently have redone their forums, and we would have to reach out to HighPoint to see if they have the customer level that would be for the institutions. I know that they do have a forum at one level, but the access to that is limited to the State Board at this time. So we certainly could reach out to HighPoint to see if they have anything in place for the institutions themselves. Monica asked, Drake or Josh, how do people sign up for the HCX Mobile e-list? So let me share my screen here and find my chat again. So in order to sign up for the mobile e-list, you'll want to come to the URL lists.ctc.edu. So that's lists.ctc.edu. We'll put that link in the chat. Once you come to this page, you will select the Visit Our Lists option. From here, you'll be presented a whole bunch of the e-lists that are available through the State Board. What you want to do is scroll down, and on the left-hand side, you'll find the CTC link -mobile list. Once you select that list, then you'll have the ability to subscribe to CTC Link Mobile e-list. You will enter your email address in the Your Email Address field. There's not a requirement for you to enter your name in the Your Name field. And then you will enter your password in the Pick a Password field, re-enter your password to confirm. And then you're able to select how you would like to receive the e-list posts using radio buttons of would you like to receive the list mail batched in a daily digest, no or yes, and then you'll just select the subscribe button. And once you do that, you'll be added to the CTC Link mobile e-list. I believe that there was a question that may have been skipped over, because I don't believe we spoke about it. I can't see it. There was a question about a workaround for students using a language other than English.
That
Debbie,
was me. Hi, yeah, it's Debbie.
Workaround for second language learners.
And that was just a topic suggestion, not
Oh,
necessarily
okay.
something we need to
Excellent.
answer today.
Okay, excellent, because to my knowledge, I don't know of any workarounds for second language learners. So that might be a great question to ask on the e-list, Debbie.
Will do.
Kara asked, hi, I was a little late, so sorry if this was already discussed and I missed it. Are other colleges experiencing error messages when they're logged into CTC Link as a staff member when they try to open access HCX through class search? At South, we've had employees and students who have never been employees who experience this error message. In student cases, they are then unable to access anything, register, thank you. So Kara, as far as the staff members, that is a known issue, and we've had a couple of tickets on that. Our security team is currently working on getting that permission available to all users. Currently, user has to have the ZZSS student role in order to be able to use class search. So any faculty or staff members, if they were assigned the ZZSS student role, they would then be able to use the class search. It's interesting that you mentioned students who've never been employees who experience the error message as well. The first thing that we would suggest would be to review that student's security roles, verify that they have the ZZSS student role. If they do have that role and they're unable to use the class search, we would then ask that you submit a ticket or a ticket to be submitted through the State Board ticketing system, including the student's name, their EMPL ID, the browser that they're using, and the steps that they were performing when they encountered the issue, so that our security team can further look into what may be the cause of that. Excellent questions. All right, we have 7 minutes left. So we still have time to address a question or two.
Can you speak a little bit to the rationale or the intention for what to include on tiles and what schools who have already configured that, what successes, like what process they use for that decision making?
So I'm unable to speak directly to why institutions have chosen what they've chosen or what successes they've had. That is not information that we have gathered from the colleges. But I do believe on the e-list recently, I believe yesterday, a question very similar to that was posted. So if you are a member of the e-list, hopefully some other institutions will be providing that feedback. Every institution is different. and working with the different institutions, even who is on the tile setup groups is different. At times, I've had it be strictly IT folks. I've had it be just the registrar type individuals. I've had it be where it's just marketing individuals on those sessions. And then I've also had sessions where institution will pull in users from all of those areas, including we've had a couple of institutions that made a point of having some of their student leadership students listen in on those sessions and provide feedback once we've set their tiles up. They've taken it back to their student leadership who's looked at it and said, well, you know, we think really having this tile moved over here makes more sense from a student point of view. So unfortunately, we don't have any direct documentation on this is why an institution has gone one way versus gone another way.
This is Holly Devereaux from the Community Colleges of Spokane, and I can tell you that when I requested our tile setup the other day as the PM, I actually spoke with some other people and we decided to do it based on the different things that students see in the new student orientation. So that's how we set up our tiles, and that was how we chose all of the tiles that were going to be there. So if they were going through it in new student orientation, they could always just go to the app and they would be able to find any of the tiles right there. And we'll be putting a link to the mobile app in both of in at least the Spokane Falls Community College new student online orientation, and also on our website.
Thank you. That's wonderful feedback. Debbie's asked, is there an opportunity to change our tiles after a reassessment from end users after launch? Or once we pick them, are we done? Nope, Debbie, you can, excuse me. We absolutely can change your tiles in the future. It's all a timing issue. One of my ways of saying it is, you know, when an institution requests their tiles to be updated, it can take up to 2 weeks for those changes to be implemented. The caveat to that is if there's an urgent situation, like if your institution would, and I hope this doesn't happen to any of our institutions in the future, if a hacker was able to get into your website and changed some of your URLs or changed even your front page, and you wanted to make sure that students were not being directed to those locations, you'd fill out a ticket. And then in that situation, I'm like, yeah, something nefarious has happened to your website. Send me an email directly and send like the state board an email directly and just be like, oh my gosh, we need this taken care of now. Our students are getting sent to like a Bitcoin payment thing and they think that they need to pay Bitcoins to enroll in classes. Yeah, let us know that right away, because what we can do is we can go in and first we can disable your institution from appearing in HCX. We can then clean up your tiles in HCX, re-enable your institution so it is appearing again. Those types of situations, that's like within a couple of hours we get that taken care of. But yeah, if you decide you want this tile to point to this location or change the image on it, we can definitely make those changes in the future for you. All right, everyone, I want to be respectful of everyone's time. It is 10:59. So thank you everybody for your attendance, your participation. We had some wonderful questions. Appreciate everybody for attending, all of your comments. Let us know what you'd like us to present in the future.
Drake, this is Monica. Thank you so much for getting this set up for everyone and leading this training. Josh, Jiha, thanks for being here and asking or answering some technical questions as well. You guys rock. I think this is really helpful for our community.
Absolutely. We're happy to do this.
This is Monica. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording and end the meeting now. So goodbye, everybody.
Monica, if you have a moment after you stop the recording, would you mind hanging out for just a moment if you have the time?
Yeah,
If you have another commitment, I completely understand.
I can do that. I'll stay on the line. I'm
Great,
going to
thank you.
stop the recording now.